We're really excited to have you here and to show you a little bit more about what Beef Northwest does here in the Pacific Northwest. So we really appreciate you being on this tour with us. You can learn where your beef comes from. All right. So Beef Northwest is a family-owned feed yard company based in Oregon. We were established in 1991, and today we have 8 feed yards throughout the Pacific Northwest. We feed cattle that go into the food industry, and so all of the animals in our care are going to leave us and go to a grocery store near you in your communities. All of the cattle that we get are born and spend the majority of their life on ranches. The Wilson family, who owns Beef Northwest, settled in the Baker Valley in 1884, and the ranch still exists today. When feed yards get cattle from all over this area, they come to us on a truck, kind of like a school bus. And so those cattle come into the feed yards, and we're going to unload them one by one off this truck into our receiving area. We have some of our own trucks that are picking up and bringing cattle to the feed yard, and we also have outside trucks that are bringing these cattle to the feed yard. Depending on the size or how much they weigh, that's how many cattle we can fit on our trucks. When we get cattle onto the feed yard, the first thing we're going to do is weigh them. I want to know how much those cattle weigh when they first get onto one of our facilities. We're also going to count how many cattle are on those trucks as well. It's almost like taking attendance when you come to school in the morning. We want to know all the animals that are coming into our care. Once cattle are on the feed yard, they are going to go through our processing barn. And so that's something that we do to give them vaccines, prepare them for the feed yard, put tags in their ears, and put them in groups called lots. It's kind of like your classrooms, right? Everyone is in a different classroom. You have a different teacher. That's what our lots are. These cattle are going to be in groups and stay in groups throughout their time on the feed yard.
Liz, are you ready for a couple of questions from us?
Do we have any questions that we're going to read?
Sure. Yep. Can you hear us okay?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. We've got one question from Miss Jones' 4th grade class, and they want to know, how much do cattle typically weigh?
When cattle come into our feed yards, they typically weigh somewhere between 800 or 900 pounds. And after they leave our feed yards, when they're big and ready to go into food production, they're going to weigh about 15 to 1600 pounds.
Awesome, thank you. And Mrs. McBain's class would like to know, how many head of cattle do you receive in one day?
One day, that's a really great question. So it kind of depends on the yard, right? Every yard is a different size. So a smaller yard might receive less cattle versus a big yard receive more cattle. At one time, Beef Northwest has the capacity for 155,000 head of cattle. And we typically bring in and send off those cattle twice a year. So in 1 year, Beef Northwest is going to receive about 300,000 head of cattle.
Awesome. And we've got one more question for you for right now. Mrs. Bolstad's kindergarten class would like to know, what are the breed of cattle that you currently have?
Yeah, the breed of cattle we have primarily are going to be Angus cattle, Angus cross cattle. We have a few different breeds like Herefords or maybe Charolais here and there, but primarily it's going to be Angus.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, so cattle comfort is a huge deal here at Beef Northwest. We're responsible for these cattle every day, and we want to make sure that they're comfortable. And that starts by taking care of the pens that they're in. We use heavy machinery like loaders or dozers to keep those pens clean, get any excess manure or dirt or straw out of those pens and then bring in fresh straw to keep those cattle comfortable. When we receive cattle, new cattle on our feed yards, we really want to make sure that they are coming into a pen that's very, very comfortable. So keeping those pens strawed, making sure that those animals have a really clean, dry place to lay is extremely important to us. Those cattle are going to be happier on our feed yards when they have a place to lay down that's soft and comfortable. We also have some permanent shades that we've built in some of our feed yards, and those shades provide a little bit of comfort for cattle in the summer. So when it's really hot, they can get under those shades and get away from the sun. Every day, we have cowboys that are riding through our pens to make sure those pens are in good condition. They're looking at the cattle, they're looking at the pen floor, they're looking at fences to make sure those cattle are being taken care of. And then water. Water is the most important thing that we can provide for these animals. It helps keep them cool in the summer and warm in the winter. And so we do an extra job making sure that we have water tanks in all of the pens that we need.
Awesome. So we've got a couple of questions for you, Elise. Miss McLean's second grade class would like to know, what are the perks of having feedlots rather than grazing them on land?
That's a great question. So cattle spend the majority of their life on ranches, on pastures, on public lands, grazing. And they're only at our feed yards for between 150 to 200 days. And so they're not here for very long. And the purpose of feed yards is to be able to get these cattle close together and be more efficient with how we're delivering those nutrients to them. Um, we want cattle to eat when they're here. We want them to consume feed so that they can put on pounds. And we're able to do that with higher energy feedstuffs versus having them on pastures for longer.
Awesome, thank you. Mrs. Law's fourth grade class would like to know, can the cows be tamed?
That's kind of, yeah, probably not tamed like your dog would be, right? But part of cattle handling on our feed yard is making sure that cattle have positive experiences when we have to move them or when we have to put them through a chute. And by doing that, it makes it a lot easier to continue to move those cattle while they're on the feed yard. If we don't handle cattle in the right way, if we stress them out a lot, they're not going to have a positive thought when it comes to a cowboy riding through the pens or us putting them through a chute. And so good cattle handling really does kind of make sure that those cattle are comfortable and want to be handled in yards.
Awesome, thank you so much. Mrs. Smith's kindergarten class from Canby, Oregon would like to know, how much water do they drink in one day?
Man, I don't know if I know that answer off the top of my head. We're getting some feedback of 25 gallons. Okay. Don't quote me on that, you guys. I'm not totally sure. I can tell you how much they eat, but I don't know how much they drink.
Wow, 25 gallons is a lot. If you think about how much a human eats, it's about 8 to 12 cups a day, which is less than 1 gallon. All right, Liz, we've got one more question from Mrs. Logan's third grade class, and she has a question about feeding. So I think this will set us up nicely for our next question, or for our next segment. So Mrs. Logan's class would like to know, what exactly are you feeding the cattle?
Yeah. So this is a great question, and we'll go ahead and start our next portion of the tour, and we can talk through that. So at Beef Northwest, we feed a variety of different feedstuffs, and some of those have to be processed. And so we have a mill that takes whole grain, whether it's corn or barley or wheat, and makes it into a feedstuff that is more bioavailable to the cattle. Another thing we feed in the Northwest is potato byproduct. There is a huge amount of potato waste that comes out of these plants in the Northwest. And so we're able to take those potato products and upcycle them to the cattle. Potatoes are really high in carbohydrates. That's energy for us, for animals. And so we're able to take something that would otherwise go into a landfill and upcycle it to the animals. You can see here lots of just really generic. We have waffle fries and crisp cut and all that fun stuff. We also have grain. And so while we feed a lot of potato products, we still utilize grains like corn and wheat and barley. And we are going to process those so that we can break the outside shell of that kernel, which allows for the animal's stomach to absorb what's inside, which is the energy of that kernel. We also purchase hay. So cattle still eat a ton of alfalfa while they're on this feed yard. And we take that alfalfa from the bales and we're going to put it through a hay processor where it's going to be broke up into pieces that are between 3 to 5 inches long. So you can see there, it's about a 3-inch long piece of hay. That's what we want in our rations. So we have all of our ingredients, and to get that to the animals, it's going to go through our feed slab. And so a loader operator is going to take all of those ingredients and weigh them and put them into feed trucks where they're going to be mixed. From there, it's going to be delivered to the cattle. As you can see here, there's 2 big mixers in the back of that feed truck that's making sure that that feed is mixed completely. So every animal can take a bite and have the same amount of potatoes, grain, alfalfa, and vitamins and minerals as the next bite. As you can see here, these cattle are not running away from the feed truck. They know what the feed truck has. They know what it's going to bring. And so when a feed truck drives by, they know that that's their cue, that they're getting their breakfast, their lunch, or their dinner. You can see here, this is our mixed ration. And so you can see a little bit of alfalfa. You can maybe see some corn. Some of that wet stuff is going to be the potato, but it's hard to differentiate all those ingredients because they're mixed so uniformly in the bunk. Our feed program is based off of the 5 R's. And so we want to follow those 5 R's every time we're feeding cattle. The right time, so plus or minus 5 minutes every single day, we need to be delivering that feed to those animals. The right way, so we want to put feed completely level across the bunk. The right pen, deliver the right animals, the right feed. The right ration, and the right amount. We are very, very exact with how much we feed cattle, and we measure all of that weight on the scales on the truck, scales on the loader, and then what's actually delivered to those pens of each animal. As you can see here, these cattle, they're able to come to the bunk and eat freely. We feed them 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they're very curious animals.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz. So it sounds like you said this in the video. We have a couple of people wondering how many times a day cattle are fed, and is it 3, just like humans?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. And how old are cattle typically when they are finished?
So it kind of depends. We're basing when cattle are finished off of their weight and when they're at their full capacity. But cattle could be anywhere from 16 months to 18 months of age when they go to a processing facility.
And how Mrs. Shanahan's class would like to know how many pounds a day do they gain so that when they're ready and they're finished, they're ready to go.
Yeah. So depending on the type of cattle that we get in, it's going to average between 3.5 and 4 pounds a day that those cattle are gaining. And they're going to eat anywhere between 22 to 25 pounds of dry matter, which means of all the feed they eat, if we took all the water out, that would be how much in pounds they would be eating.
Great. Like sick.
Sorry, I think I lost you there for a second, Jake. Can you repeat that?
No problem. Sorry, 5th grade. They'd like to know, what is the protocol when a cow is sick?
So every day we have pen riders or cowboys riding through these pens, and they're looking at every single animal and identifying if they are sick, maybe they're in the wrong pen, maybe they got hurt, something like that. And if they have identified one of those animals, they're going to take it out of the pen and take it to one of our hospitals. And from there, we have cattle doctors that are evaluating those animals and trying to diagnose them with some sort of either illness, or maybe they are an animal that's just been injured, and they're going to treat those cattle depending on that diagnosis. We have a veterinarian that puts together all of those regimens. And so if we pull an animal and we think that they have pneumonia, we have a list of things that we need to be doing to that individual animal based on their weight, what their background is, obviously their diagnosis, and then we're going to treat that animal accordingly.
Awesome, thank you. And if it's okay with you, I think we'll go into the next section and talk about those cowboys.
Perfect. All right, so every day we have cowboys that are saddling up and using their horses to go through every single one of our pens on our feed yards. Those cattle are taking care of cattle. Those cowboys are taking care of cattle, not only by pulling sick animals out of pens, also making sure that our facilities are in good condition. Those guys really are our first defense when it comes to taking care of animals on our feed yards. So cowboys use low stress cattle handling to either pull individual animals out of pens or maybe to move whole groups of pens. And so here we have a pen that's maybe moving to a different pen, and those cowboys are in there and they are slowly pushing those cattle out into the alleyway. They're not stressing those animals out. They're not running around. They are just getting all of those cattle out into the alley to move them to a new pen. There's not a lot of people these days that can be really great cowboys and really great cattlemen too. Understand cattle and know when they're sick. And so we really value our cowboys here on the feed yard. They're going to pull sick animals out of pens, and here they're taking some of them to the hospital. So again, low stress. They're not being loud. They're not being crazy. They're going to allow those cattle to follow one another, be together, and get them to the hospital in good shape. These guys have a huge impact on our cattle comfort across the feed yard. Like I said, they're in the pens every day. If they see that cattle need more straw, or we need to put an extra water tank in, or we need to put some shades, they're going to be the ones that are there making that decision and communicating that back to our feed yard managers. When we see cattle comfortable on the yard, that's when we know that we're doing a good job. Sometimes cattle here in the hospital need a little extra TLC, and so they'll get fed long stem hay. And so we're managing those sick cattle individually based off of truly the needs that they have being sick. So overall, at Beef Northwest, our number one goal is to take care of cattle and to feed our communities and our country and our world. And so every day we have people coming to this feed yard, feed truck drivers, cowboys, guys running equipment, and they're here to take care of cattle. They're here to produce a high quality beef product that we can be proud to put on our families' plates at the end of the day.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz. We have some really awesome questions. The first one is, how many cowboys are working in the yard each day?
Yeah, so it depends on how big our feed yard is, right? At a feed yard that maybe is only 5,000 head, you might have one or two guys here every day. At our Boardman facility, we have 65,000 head of cattle there, and we're going to have anywhere between 6 to 8 cowboys riding pens every single day.
Perfect. And Mrs. Lee's second grade class would like to know, what kind of training or personal qualities are important for someone who wants to become a cowboy?
Wow, you guys are asking really great questions. Being a cowboy, you have to have a lot of skills when it comes to horses, and be able to be safe when you're horseback, because it can be a very dangerous job. But overall, if you want to come work at Beef Northwest, you need to have a good attitude. You need to want to take care of cattle. show up on time, and really have a passion for the ag industry.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So speaking of number of people, how many employees, excuse me, work at Beef Northwest?
I think at Beef Northwest, just our feed yards, I think we have about 200 employees.
When we've got one question here from Mrs. McBain. She wants to know if you were a part of 4-H. Sounds like you said part of the pledge, and they have many 4-Hers in their class.
That's awesome. I only did 4-H for a few years, and then I did FFA when I was in high school, but I have been really involved in some of our 4-H groups locally, and while I was in college. So it's definitely a great, great program, and I highly encourage anyone who's not in 4-H to get involved.
Awesome. So we've got one question here from Heritage Christian School that wants to know, do you process the cattle or do they get sent somewhere else?
So we send cattle from our feed yards to a processing facility. And I use that word kind of synonymous with like a slaughterhouse, right? These cattle are going to end up in the food supply. And so we sell those cattle to the company that is going to be taking those animals and turning them into beef.
Awesome, thank you. We've got time for one more question here. Can you talk about what is your favorite part of working for Beef Northwest?
Yeah. So I really love working for a company that's family owned and operated. I think that it's really rare to work for a big agriculture company where you still have that family feel. But on my day to day, I really enjoy working with our employees here on our yards. I think we have some phenomenal people that show up every day that put cattle first. And we're all really, really proud of producing good, high quality beef that we can feed our communities with.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Liz, and the rest of the crew at Beef Northwest for taking time today to talk with the students about all that cattle experience and go through and how they grow and eat and feed at Beef Northwest Feeders. Thank you to all of the students and classrooms for joining us, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.